Exercise 1.
Music in New Orleans. Listen to the conversation and fill in the missing information in the notes below.
Hi, Mike. Do you like jazz?
Yes, very much. And I like to dance to jazz too.
Do you know who first started to play jazz?
Yes, of course. The African Americans.
Do you know when and where?
Yes. Around 1900, people from many countries lived in New Orleans. Music was an important part of life in this city. Musicians in New Orleans started to play a new kind of music. It was called jazz. Jazz was a kind of music intended to make people happy.
I know jazz is kind of a mixture of many different kinds of music. For example, African, blues, European, church music, and work songs. Most early jazz musicians were African American. They played in small bands and they didn't write down their music.
Yes, they learned to work together to produce a loose and relaxed beat that is so powerful that listeners cannot help but dance, or at least move their feet along with it. And soon, white musicians were playing jazz too.
I know black and white musicians seldom played together in the United States at that time.
You are right. Around 1920, jazz music began to spread. Jazz musicians moved from city to city. People listened to jazz records. They heard jazz on the radio. In the 1930s and 1940s, jazz was popular in the U.S. and Canada. The music was called swing. It was played by big bands.
It was said there are still a few bands made up of very old musicians playing the old-style jazz in a club in New Orleans. They play jazz for 4.5 hours each evening, so many tourists go there and listen.
Can the audience make some special requests for the songs?
Yes, if the musicians are willing to play them, people pay a little money for the request. Traditional songs cost $1 and all others cost $2.
That's interesting. I'd like to visit the city sometime in the future. Exercise 2. Who invented popcorn? Listen to the conversation and fill in the missing information in the notes below. Mary and her classmate Alex are off from school. They are going to see a film.
Do you have the time, Alex?
It's 7:20.
We are early. The film starts at 7:30. Let's have something to drink.
That's a good idea.
Something smells good.
Right. That's popcorn. Would you like some popcorn?
Yes, I'd love some. Do you know who invented popcorn?
It is said that popcorn is a delicacy that was developed by the Indians of North America.
When did they invent it?
It has been dated back thousands of years.
I see.
Do you know that the Indians were not only eating popped corn, but they also used popped corn in headdresses, necklaces, and in religious ceremonies?
Yes, we have seen these in some films, and according to most sources, a deerskin bag full of popcorn was served at the first Thanksgiving dinner at Plymouth Rock in 1621.
You know, popcorn's popularity grew during the Depression of the 1930s, when people realized that a little popcorn could go a long way. But its success was clinched when movie theaters across the continent started serving the snack. By 1947, 85% of movie houses were selling popcorn at their concession stands.
Oh, the movie's about to start. Let's go. Exercise 3. Lobsters. Listen to the talk and fill in the missing information in the notes below.
Good morning, everyone. Today I will talk about lobsters. Many of our listeners wrote to me to ask if lobsters really scream when they are boiled, and why they turn red when they are cooked? These are very good questions. Well, let me ask you a question. If you were sitting in a vat of boiling water, wouldn't you scream and turn red too? But in the lobster's case, there is no scream, and there is a chemical reason for the change in color. Noises are produced as a lobster is boiled alive, but the sounds are not voices. As the lobster's body heats up in the shell, pockets of air in the cavities and joints expand. If enough pressure builds inside the body, the air will make whistle-like sounds as it escapes through small openings in the shell. As for the color shift, a lobster's shell contains red pigment molecules that combine with a protein to create the camouflaging colors of the lobster. Live lobsters are usually blue-green or brown with flecks of yellow. When the lobster is boiled, the protein is denatured or deformed by the heat. The pigment remains, however, turning the shell red.